What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's AMA. We have Dan coming in with a pre-recorded video. So Andy, why don't we kick that off? Then we'll get to myself and Cheng. We have a special guest, long time kind of in and out of the Ergo community, asking questions. He's the founder and core developer of Alephium. So Cheng, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, so let's see what Dan has to say. He's looking a little goofy in this still. So Andy, why don't we play that?
Hey, everybody. This is Dan coming to you pre-recorded. That's right. Sorry, guys, I couldn't be there live today. I know we got a really cool AMA lined up for you. I'm sure that Joe will take care of it. And please don't hesitate to ask him anything. That's what an AMA is all about. So from my end, there's been quite a few developments. First of all, we have started, we just finished CNFTCon as well as Rare Bloom. Both events were really good for the ecosystem. We got a lot of traction for Ergo. We got new Ergonauts. We had some of our veterans come out as well. Joe and I were at both events, and we were just really happy to see so many people interested. In fact, our booth was just kind of a bit of a hangout for people and new people as well. So it was really good. I really hope that we can do a lot of more of these in the future. I believe that it's great for the ecosystem. I believe that although of course virtual interactions are kind of an accepted standard in today's world, I still believe that face-to-face human interaction is the best way to establish relationships. So I know that there are more meetups being planned, New York, Europe, as well as other places. I'm all for that. Please let me know if you need any support from me or from the EF. We will do all we can to make sure that you get things going, and it's just a good event, and you get more people interested, get more people involved in Ergo. So moving on, there has been some new traffic some new interest from exchanges for new exchange integrations. Again, this is something that is we're still in early stages right now. Need to discuss a few things before we can commit. Just letting you know that there is active we're actively talking to exchanges and basically actively pursuing new integrations and new listings. And finally, I have been working on the ecosystem fund that I've been telling you guys about for some time now, as well as the education initiative. Both are actually pretty close to some good milestones. So I believe next month I'm going to be able to reveal where we are with both. And again, as far as education, there will be a couple of verticals. First will be a course that is meant for people that don't know blockchain, to basically teach them how to use blockchain in business. And we might also do a more advanced one, but that would be in parallel with this first course. And just the first course will of course use Ergo. So again, really good way to onboard new people on Ergo, because since they're going to be learning on Ergo, chances are really good they're going to keep using Ergo for their business blockchain needs, which is what we want. All right, guys, that's it for me. Joe, please do your thing.
All right, so it looks like Dan stopped moving, so I imagine he's done talking. It's a pleasure to have you here, Cheng. We haven't spoken in a couple of weeks. What's the latest on your side?
So in the past few weeks, or even like 1 to 2 months, we focus on next big release that is going to be including the main features for the network upgrades. So we're going to you could consider that we are going to have the version 2 of Alephium. It's going to enable interoperability with other blockchains, Bait virtual machine, and the Bait language. So a lot of things, developments right now. And we are getting close to the completion phase, but it still needs some work. Yeah. So that was the main focus on our side.
So we have a question here from Augustus Kent. Can we pull that up, Andy? It says, in what area do Alephium and Ergo overlap? Do you want to cover that, Cheng, and then?
Yeah, maybe I start and then you can
Sure.
to comment on that. I think I have been in the Ergo community since the very beginning. I follow the development of Ergo. I think in 2019, it's a bit far away. I don't remember exactly. I mainly follow the development of the protocol. I really like it. I also discussed quite some of the details on GitHub with Alex, with the other core teams. So I personally like the approach of Ergo, like to be very kind of close to the philosophy of Bitcoin, very focused on the value of decentralization, and also bring new stuff like smart contracts, privacy, etc. So I was back in 2019. I was also following. I think back in 2016 or 17, I started to follow the progress of Ethereum as well. My main interest was in the scalability research, most specifically the sharding algorithm of Ethereum. I kind of followed it for like 1 year, and I was not really happy about it. So that's why I started to kind of try to build my own sharding algorithm, and that's the motivation that we studied it. In my algorithm, UTXO is a very essential model for scaling the blockchain because of the immutability of UTXO, and it's much easier to just parallelize it, right? So that's kind of be the main reason that I got attracted to Ergo and to get kind of a little bit involved in the community in the early days. I think the main common ground is that we focus on the UTXO model. We think that is great for the security of dApps on top of blockchain, and also we value the benefits of decentralization and value the core philosophy of proof of work. So I think that's the main part. Other than that, we have a lot of different. I think positioning is quite different. As far as I see, we focus on sharding, and the Ergo is more on the UTXO stuff and also the privacy stuff. Yeah, so that's my understanding.
Yep, I would say UTXO Alliance is one of the things that we do together. Long term, there's a potential there that actually fits really nicely where Ergo's Autolycos is pretty memory intensive and Alephium is pretty core intensive. So for a dual mining setup long term, it actually makes sense in terms of like GPU efficiency. I think that's something I'd love to see as we grow dual mining that supports both projects.
Yeah, that's a great point. It seems like quite some community members are doing it already. Like there are some people, they really like both projects and they are mining on both at the same time.
Yeah, so it's a great partner to have, long-term benefit. I know that you guys are definitely pushing UTXO sharding. And so what are your thoughts in terms of the pros and cons of sharding? That's a question here from Wombo 22.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sharding is, first, the goal of sharding is to improve the scalability of blockchain. If we think about how to scale the layer one blockchain, there's only one solution in my opinion, except for if there's some optimization you can do to improve the throughput of blockchain on layer one. But if you really want to scale it with some algorithms, I think sharding right now is still the only solution for layer one. Of course, you can scale it with layer two, like roll ups, etc. Yeah, but that's another category of design. So yeah, I think that's kind of the main arguments to do sharding on layer one, and of course, it has some trade-offs. The good thing of sharding obviously is for scalability. You have multiple blockchains, you assemble blocks in parallel, and you execute them in parallel. So it's pretty much like database, like what has happened to the database field. The drawback side is you're going to have multiple blockchains. You are going to have multiple addresses, and you are going to take care of the assets on different blockchains, right? And you're going to move the funds across them. So that can create some issues on user experience. So from the very beginning, I am pretty much aware of this, because like back then, people were arguing a lot about the cross-shard transactions in the Ethereum community. And in our case, in our algorithm block flow, this problem I think is solved nicely in practice, because the cross-shard transaction is just a single step. So if you have some assets on one shard and you want to move it to another shard, you just do one transaction. And just like right now, you do it on Ergo or on Bitcoin. So users will not fear about the difference when they transfer on inside one shard or they transfer across the shard. But still, like, users should be aware of that they have assets on different shards. This can be a drawback in user experience. But other than that, I think is totally fine. Yeah. But the benefit is obvious, is you have the decentralized kind of scalability compared to layer two. Right now, like, there's a trend to scale blockchain with layer two technologies. But as far as now, most of the layer two solutions, they have a kind of centralized sequencer to kind of to batch the transactions and then submit them to the layer one blockchain. I think it's definitely not what we want for the very long term. Are they able to decentralize the sequencer is still a problem. So I think sharding definitely has a great advantage over here. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say would be the pros and cons of sharding in the account model versus UTXO? That would be a good continuation of this question.
That's a good question. So I think for sharding, UTXO is definitely a great choice, a great technical stack to follow. Initially, I was following the design of Ethereum sharding. They definitely go with account model, and they have a lot of troubles with that. Specifically, like cross-shard transaction is very, very challenging on that. You're going to have at least 2 steps to do that. And also for smart contract interaction, composability is tricky. But UTXO model is much simpler in this case. It's immutable. You just get the parallelism by default. So that's why we are a very small team. We deliver the sharding like much earlier than the Ethereum. So the sharding roadmap is still work in progress for Ethereum. I think that's the work speaks for itself, right? Obviously, it's much easier to do sharding with UTXO model than account model.
All right. So we have a question here from Andrea. who is asking, can we have Alephium listed on Spectrum Deck? So what's the bridging potential you see? I know that you guys have a upgrade coming up. And so obviously it's to make sure that the infrastructure doesn't have to be upgraded, but is that something you're interested in, working with the Rosen team?
Yeah, that's a good question. Initially I was following the bridge development of Ergo as well. So you guys choose a wormhole. We also choose a wormhole, and we thought that we can bridge with wormhole at the very beginning. So, but then we focus on wormhole. You guys choose to build your own bridge. So I think we're going to spend more time to research like Rosen bridge, and then see how to integrate that as well. So once that is available, we are definitely going to bridge with each other. I'm very looking forward to that. So yeah, that right now it's still a bit away. We don't have the extra like time to do the integration for now, but the wormhole bridge is really very close to be done. We are working on the contract part is done, the client, the Guardian node is done. Right now we are focusing on the infrastructure, basically to the deployment of the bridge on some of the cloud platforms, and then after the network upgrade, we could deploy it. And then we could start to integrate Rosen bridge. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very cool to connect with Ergo's ecosystem. I've been following the development of the apps on Ergo as well. I've seen a lot of cool applications. I'm looking forward to bridge like the stablecoin, Ergo, and also the NFT to Alephium ecosystem, and people can try it and to basically to get the benefit of both ecosystem.
Awesome. So we have a question here from Wombo22 for Cheng. What are your thoughts on privacy?
So I think there are two directions we could talk about privacy. So firstly, a bit more like political stuff. So this part I'm not that good at it, to be honest. I'm a developer. I usually only talk about technology. That's what I'm good at. So I will focus on technology still. So privacy has been like old topic. It's not new topic. It's like, I think probably from the day like people invented computers, people start to talk about this, and cryptography has been also used in probably like since the very early days. There are a lot of very cool privacy stuff already on the internet in computer science, long before the invention of blockchain. A lot of like signatures, libraries or tools, right? But usually they have some user experience issues. Like I personally tried a few of them as well, and it's very hard to be adopted by massive, in my opinion. But blockchain introduced some new opportunities, in my opinion, because blockchain by itself is designed to decentralize the data. And this is well aligned with privacy, and you have your own keys. You control your own money, and privacy is more about like you fully control your own data, right? So on this part, they are pretty much aligned, and also blockchain kind of educate a lot of users about how to use private key, how to use wallets, right? And that's also kind of benefits privacy adoption. Yeah. So I think from this part, I think privacy can definitely have great application on blockchain than other internet services. Probably it's going to be a very good start for the new era of privacy oriented stuff. And then like very technically, I think there are different types of privacy algorithms. I did not dive too deep into this topic. Definitely, I read a lot about the algorithm design of privacy protocols. Like Sigma protocol, I personally really like it. It's very, I think Sigma protocol is pretty unique in the space, and it's pretty advanced in this field. If I recall correctly, it seems the multi-sig was the first one in the field of blockchain. But I may be wrong. But I remember the multi-sig of Ergo was pretty early compared to other protocols.
Yeah.
And then there are some other approaches like zero knowledge stuff. Those are pretty advanced researches and pretty advanced cryptography. But in my opinion, like right now, it's still far from being practical. It's still very slow for massive adoption. Like if you want to verify a proof, or if you want to provide a proof, it usually takes a lot of time to do it. Some of them usually use GPU to do the proofs, and that's definitely a problem for massive adoption. And also like engineering side is pretty challenging because cryptography is like, if you don't do it well, you are going to be kind of be messed up in the future. So I think on this part still takes a lot of time to get mature. Yeah. So yeah, it's a deep topic. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to call zero knowledge proofs on a high level, like dark forest. We don't know exactly where the trees are yet. And as it matures, I think there'll be more light in the forest and things will be known, but there's a lot of risks there potentially.
Yeah, exactly. I do like Ergo's approach with Sigma protocol with these primitives. It's very, very unique in the space, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we have a question from Cools. Maybe I murdered that name. If so, sorry. When is mining Ergo going to be profitable again? That's a hard question. You could ask in general, when is mining going to be relatively profitable again? I'm not sure where Alephium is in terms of profitability, but I imagine kind of in the same space as Ergo, where there's a lot of workers out there and market doesn't really have the security subsidy in place in terms of keeping up with that amount of work. We're still adapting post merge.
Yeah, I think on our side is a bit different from Ergo because we are very early stage, right? Where the market cap is much lower. I think a lot of miners mine it more like for the long term than like short term. So, but I know they probably much more professional miners on Ergo. They probably will cash out immediately. Probably, I don't know, but so the situation is different. But I personally think like Ergo is and also Alephium it's better to be mined for the long term, in my opinion. If you really want to sell it immediately and look for profit, then if it's not profitable, then you don't mine it. That's the only way.
No, it's a rough space for miners. I've actually talked to quite a few in probably the last 2 weeks, especially since I've been kind of doing the whole conference thing. Mm-hmm. And it's, right now most miners are using their GPUs to print an options contract at the cost of production with no expiration. And so hopefully markets grow to where, their input costs make that a profitable decision. But that takes time. There's a ton of people out there that want to mine, and some of them are, trying to mine whatever, I don't know, is profitable. But as soon as something is profitable and too many people jump on, it's not profitable. And so, I
totally get that. Yeah, I was surprised. To be honest, I was surprised. I'm not really familiar with the mining industry. So in the early days, there were a lot of miners mine on Alephium, like when it just came out. I was very surprised by that. And also another fact that I was surprised is a lot of miners don't know really what the project is. And they just mine it.
Yeah, there's a lot that, get into like spec mining, and, if something is new, they'll hop on to try to basically get kind of the first emissions. Usually that's when they're aggressive and hold that long term as like a lottery play. Right now it's just rough out there for miners. Nothing is profitable.
Yeah.
And,
but I think like the situation right now for Ergo is like much better than 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's working on the fly. Fun. So I hope profitability comes back. I think it will. I think things will consolidate and, then grow from that point. I don't know if we've reached the consolidation point yet. I would imagine not, but I've never thought that mining post Ethereum would be like a sprint, right? I think it's going to be a marathon where people kind of grind to the lowest costs. And then once that consolidation occurs, then things will start to reverse and grow organically. And that's a rough process. I would love to see markets rebuild that type of security subsidy, but I'd like to say that 95% of the workforce got fired and went home with their tools, right? And so now they are competing against each other with their tools in the open market when it's just driving down wages. There's no pretty way to put it. I know.
Yeah, but it's going to be like in equilibrium eventually at some point.
Exactly. That's how proof of work works long term, is it's self-healing. Finds that equilibrium.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What else? Looks like we have DigDug008 says POLW is very interesting concept. Is it solely to keep the total energy input of the network at or below a predetermined threshold, or are there other reasons?
Sorry, I don't get the second part. Like
I said, this POLW is an interesting.
POLW. Okay. I thought it was about like generic proof of work. So the design of proof-less work. So he was asking about keeping the energy under a certain threshold. Yeah, it was kind of. The design was kind of try to align with the energy consumption of Bitcoin, and then try to cap it at a reasonable threshold. So when the network consumption is not an issue, we like the algorithm is just the same as the classical proof of work. And when the energy consumption becomes really a problem, then the algorithm will start to ask the miners to burn some coins instead of purely mining on the physical world. So in that, like the miners is kind of mining on the physical world, and also mining on the network. In that way, we reduce the energy consumption. So there's no kind of rock science like which threshold is good for the world, in my opinion. For example, like if Bitcoin spending like consumes like 0.1% of the whole energy of the world, and like the next year it consumes like 0.2% of the energy of the world. Like which one do we prefer? It's a bit hard to say, right? Because if it consumes like 0.2% of the energy, it means it's much secure, right? But at the same time, it's hard to tell like the real benefit of like spending 0.1% extra energy to get the security, right? So in the design, we have to make a choice. So in our case, we made the choice we made is like we try to kind of align with the current Bitcoin consumption. And put it in a reasonable range that we think is good to keep. So that's basically the general design philosophy.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah,
that'll be fascinating to watch Bitcoin long term to see if they can sustain the security subsidy needed to pay miners. That's something I have questions about.
Yeah. That's a question, but we are not exactly like Bitcoin because we don't have the halving, same as Ergo. We don't have the halving design, so we are different. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, like they are going to change the emission eventually at some point. There's I personally think that's.
Yeah, I think the same, but that's unpopular opinion. But I think the math just indicates that has to happen.
Yeah, it has to happen. But the Bitcoin community right now, definitely they are not happy with that. But probably at some point they will accept that.
Yeah, well, not popular opinion, but I share it. TC Montague says it's winter for us miners. That's true. Mining right now is rough. Hopefully, some of the heat subsidy helps in winter, right? At least you can say, well, I'm keeping my house or basement or garage or office warm. But yeah, hard time for miners, unfortunately.
Yeah, hard time for crypto in general. I think like Bitcoin is when they are also in a bad situation. Small projects also, but it's the time for building.
Exactly, and there's a certain piece to that, right?
Yeah.
Now just focus on the technology side, and I guess when things turn around, then hope your servers don't melt and your infrastructure is hard, and different challenges.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good time for us because we are still for like building a lot of the infrastructure, so we need more time to get ready. If we keep in the bull market, it's going to be a huge marketing pressure for us. I think so. Yeah, there are some positive sides for this.
Sure, you got to take the positive where it is. Next, we have Tech Fabi, and he said, we did it. Dan looks more tired than us. So, yeah, it's true. I think he's actually in Florida right now. Maybe he's flying out of Florida. But, yeah, looks more tired. Usually it's his nighttime. So I'm the guy drinking coffee, and he's all wired up. Next, we have Windy Moon. She said, Ergo's amenability has now been thoroughly battle tested. Is this proof that Ergo is here to stay for the long term? What would have happened to Bitcoin if a similar hash rate overload occurred? Hard to say. I can't speak about like potential realities that didn't happen in terms of Bitcoin. But yeah, I think that considering we had, we did pretty good getting out in front of it and having the miners vote and the smooth implementation on the fly. I'd say battle testing and net is good, but damn, it's not fun. So let's not do that again, hopefully.
Definitely. Technically, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's more challenging for Ergo because you have a larger community. You cannot really risk changes to the protocol stuff. So like all the release, all of the upgrades, you have to be very careful.
Yep. I think we did relatively smooth. Windy Moon is also asking, what mechanisms does Alephium have in place to survive the changing landscape that the future could throw at us? What is the exact meaning of changing landscape? I
think
it just has to do with like amenability and the ability to adapt if you need to, that type of thing.
First, like in the emission, the design it's a bit like Ergo as well. Pretty much like all of the blockchains is the emission kind of goes down along with time, and somehow on our side there will be a tail emission always, like Monero, a small emission to always to make sure that the miners have some rewards. So I think That's a pretty standard, more or less the same as other proof of work blockchains. I think that's part, it does not, like, it's not very different for proof of work blockchains for the long term. For the short term, of course, it's a bit different because emission rate is different. For the long term, I think what really matters more is about the ecosystem, is about the applications on top of that. The design itself is usually more or less the same for a very long term.
All right, we have a question from Tech Fabi. Could you elaborate on your halvening thoughts? I'd be interested in understanding your point of view better. I'll start there. He's talking about Bitcoin. So one way to look at a block reward is a security subsidy, right? You're paying miners for the service they're providing to secure the network. And when you look at it as a security subsidy that is continually having, the reward gets less and less. So then you create a paradigm where the value of that reward has to scale with the growth of the service providers, right? So it maintains a certain profitability. And so what happened with Ethereum with the merge is you had basically the macro mining service market, the security subsidy itself got cut about 95%, the amount that the market was paying out via emissions to miners. And so then it created this environment where that security subsidy couldn't cover the costs of all of the rigs that had built around the market. Well, every time that Bitcoin halves, the value of that security subsidy gets cut in half. And so it has to scale on the other end to make up for the value, that miners expect to cover costs. And at some point, it very well may be that the security subsidy itself gets so small that it cannot cover the cost of security, and in which case you have a problem. And you have something like what's happening now, but on a much grander scale and to a degree more centralized, because Bitcoin is kind of its own animal due to ASICs. So potentially in 3 or 4 halvings, we enter a situation where the market just can't scale in terms of like the value of the market cap itself to cover all of the workers that are out there. Plus, it's a security question, right? So you have your market cap, let's say here, right? And over time, the security subsidy relative to market cap is continually shrinking, right? So as the market cap itself grows and the security subsidy itself is shrinking, you get this differential that's growing between the total value of the network and then the security subsidy of the network. And some people have to ask the question, does that make the potential of attacking the network more profitable? So we'll see. That's my thinking. Cheng, what's your input there?
Yeah, I think in the short term is definitely not a problem because the market cap and also the reward is kind of still okay. For a very long term, definitely the attack cost is going to drop a lot, as you mentioned, as you like just explained, because the gap between the market cap and the mining reward is going to be much bigger than right now, right? Yeah, I don't have any prediction. My prediction is they have to change the emission at some point.
Yeah, I think we're at least, probably 12 to 16 years out before that's actually something that needs to be considered. So it's not a problem that I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to happen today. But in my thinking,
I think in general, like people say that around 20 years is going to be a huge problem. So the changes, as you said, probably going to happen in 12 or to like 16 years.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the case, that we have a while before it's actually like a tangible problem that people start addressing because it is something that they need to address. But for now, kick the can, avoid it, and deal with it later. Human nature. Let's see. So Wombo22 here is asking if more devs joined Alephium, what would you like them to research and work on?
So right now we are still in the very early stage. We just released the wiki or documentation for our tech stack. So devs can already start to explore with the documentations. Regarding building, I think first thing, maybe try to follow the documentation, build something very simple and to get a good feeling about the stack and the programming model, etc. And then probably we have some prototypes for like the apps. We have an NFT bridge, a lot of contracts already written by the core team. So that can give you a lot of good inspirations. And also feel free to ask questions in our Discord group. Or usually if it's like development questions, I will answer all of them if I have time. Same for the team members. So yeah, that's usually the standard way to get started. And if you have new ideas, you can also apply for a grant to start it, and we would access about the kind of the if it's doable, or if we could give some advices. Yeah, so we can, if you have like big ideas, we can talk. I think for the very long term, we're going to make this to be more dev friendly. So that's the whole development ecosystem can be more decentralized. Right now, still, we need to provide a lot of input, a lot of help for developers. But for the very long term, we hope the documentation, the helps, they can be really be community driven. But right now, I think we are already in a good stage that we have a lot of documentations. They are just out 1 to 2 weeks ago. Awesome. So we are looking for feedbacks as well.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. We have a question here from King Dave 3. I said, do you guys think that proof of work could become forbidden due to concerns with energy consumption? Would this even be possible given that we are in a free market? Well, globally, I don't think we are in a free market. There's always a lot of regulations and fun stuff that interferes with the barrier of entry itself. Do I think it could become forbidden? Sure, it already has in some jurisdictions, but the question is, does that work effectively? And it seems like the answer is no, right? Especially for small miners, if you have just the hardware availability, you have electricity, you have internet, pretty hard to stop that unless you're going to get rid of hardware availability, electricity, or internet. Good luck stopping that. Now, in terms of like industrial scale footprints, that's when you just get into migration, right? And, you know, if one jurisdiction says, okay, we are no longer going to allow proof of work, what happens? A lot of the big miners migrate to areas that are cost competitive, either with the electrical subsidy or with their regulatory environment. And crypto itself historically has kind of survived based on this concept of jurisdictional arbitrage. You can look at why Binance has such a big legal team, right? And they, hop from this jurisdiction to that jurisdiction to that jurisdiction to that jurisdiction. I don't think that game is going to change. In terms of like smaller, like actors, like, a guy at home running 6-10 GPUs. Yeah, good luck stopping them, is what I say.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think, as you said, like based on the past experience, cryptocurrency has survived quite well from the challenges from the governments or from regulations. And I think proof of work is especially unique compared to proof of work in terms of this. It's much easier to have a mining pool than a staking pool. the technical challenge is smaller. So it means if if there will be some problems in some jurisdictions, the mining pool miners, they can migrate to other places. Miners is a bit different, right? Because of hardware, but mining pool is much easier. So that's it. And I think right now we see a lot of kind of regulations, but most of them are related to DeFi and the proof of staking. And DeFi, I think by itself could be very decentralized, but the problem is a lot of protocols, they are designed to be centralized. So that is not it's not the problem of DeFi, in my opinion, it's the problem of the design. Especially with the UTX model, I think a lot of things can be even more decentralized because in the UTX model, you can have multiple inputs, right? And then you can have a lot of peer-to-peer transactions. So if I want to do something with you, I can put one input in there and you put one input there, and we can make a transaction with smart contracts. But this is not that's doable with a account model, and that makes it a bit more vulnerable to centralize kind of stuff. So yeah, I think proof of work and UTXO definitely has a great advantage over here in terms of this.
I would agree. Next, we have a question from Augustus Kent, kind of along the same lines. At the end of the day, all sorts of businesses use a lot of electricity to make money. Basically, the whole technology sector with their data centers consumes energy and turns it into a profit. Yeah, that's what most advances in civilization is the concentration of energy in terms of, either the efficiency of its use or the net concentration of energy itself. So I don't think that'll change. And, the reality is it also depends on the jurisdiction, right? I'll use the example of like South America. Okay. There are some countries, governments that are not as stable or friendly to crypto, but one benefit of having kind of an unstable system sometimes is you get coverage in the system itself to where, I've talked to miners in South America that they're like, yeah, what do? We pay the power guy. And so he changes the meter, right? Mm-hmm. And, if you have, let's say that difficult of a system to manage, good luck controlling everything. Even in highly regulated and refined environments with very good systems of laws and regulation, you still have a ton of illegal businesses that operate. So that's why I just say have fun. If there's a profit incentive there, people are creative, they're entrepreneurial, and they'll find their own way and take their own risks and manage your risks and live well, I guess, everybody.
Yeah. And I don't really think like it's a waste of energy. It's a public good. It's a very essential infrastructure. I think that provides people more options. It's not a waste of energy.
I think people forget what proof of work gives us, right? And that's like access to a global economic machine, right? That you have the ability to participate with regardless of jurisdiction, of place, of, it delivers that economic machine and access anywhere in the world. And to me, that's worth the money. You can look at the cost of regular economies, globally that people don't have access to, and sometimes they're locked within. And you have to ask, what's the energy cost of that, and what's the actual efficiency of it? And a lot of the times, if you look at the, people with their fingers in the pie and the actual productivity of spending that it takes to maintain a lot of these economic engines or machines that, are country oriented or sometimes, more of a larger conglomerate of countries oriented. There's a tremendous amount of waste. There's a tremendous energy cost. And so it's kind of a joke, in my opinion, to say, oh, it's a waste.
Totally agree on that. Yeah. And people on criticals usually forgot how challenging or how difficult it is to reach consensus for the whole world, right? And
it's
definitely worth it.
a beautiful thing when you really step back and look at like the value of having a global economic machine that's controlled by nobody, but everybody has the ability to participate with.
It's a like kind of I think in the past, personally, in my personal perspective, is one of the innovation that's the most impressive innovation that has happened to the whole world.
No, I tend to agree. But when people look at it just as a technology and not as like a global economic machine, then they say, "Oh, look at the energy that's provided just from this one technology." But if you look at the energy costs, the waste, and the general bullshit that happens in other economic machines, I think it's competitive.
Yeah, much better.
So it just depends if you're looking apples to apples or oranges to apples, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see, any other questions we have? I think that pretty much wraps it up, buddy. Anything you'd like to cover, Cheng, in terms of what we haven't gone over today?
I think no. Like in general, I want to invite people to try our blockchain and build on top of it. It's still very early, and I'm looking forward to have more interoperability with Ergo in the future. We are kind of following the very similar philosophy. It's going to be really cool if we can do a model, do a lot of more stuff.
So what's the date? At least I know there's always like the difficulty. But when do you think that hard fork or upgrade is going to come through, if you could guess?
We are planning for the end of this year. Looks very promising, I would say. But as you say, that usually there always will be a delay somehow.
Yeah, soon is all you could say.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
awesome. I hope that goes well for you guys.
Yeah, thanks. Same for Ergo. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for spending the time with us to ask questions, discuss things, maybe learn a little bit. We'll do the same thing next week. It's always a pleasure. Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.